everyone. Welcome to the Real Insights podcast by Purple Carrot. And today we've got our good mate coming on board with us. He's one of Sydney's up-and-comers in the business world with Michael Tuck. Only in his mid-20s or getting towards his late 20s now. He's a senior executive at commercial retail leasing with one of the world's leading and most established commercial property firms. He's also an entrepreneur, started an organic vodka company called Villa Vodka out of Sydney's Northern Beaches, and is genuinely one of the nice guys in the business world. But interestingly, he didn't start out the traditional business per se. Michael, once leaving his public school, went on to become an apprentice roof plumber, and once qualified, moved into emergency management before building his business acumen and taking on the world. Michael's interesting career changes and education pathway have made him a key target for us on the Real Insights podcast, and we welcome him here today, mate. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, take us on that journey. I mean, you're a public school boy, and you're now one of the hottest properties in commercial leasing. How did that all happen?
Well, so obviously I came from New Zealand, born in New Zealand, moved to Sydney, went to school in Northern Beaches. It's a nice place to grow up. And I was surrounded by a lot of people that have done well in their business lives, and it was pretty inspirational for me. Met a lot of people along the way, and I got offered a few jobs after school, took that track, and then I always knew I wanted to get into property, and that's kind of where I've landed now.
But roof plumbing. What made you kick off with that?
So it was a guy I was working with while I was at school on the weekends, getting some side cash to pay for some drinks on the weekend. And then he offered me a job when I left school. Good opportunity for money, and thought I'd just go ahead with it. And then 4 years later, I got the license, and it was a good job, but it wasn't what I was going to do forever.
So you then went into emergency management. So, I mean, other side of the pendulum, but again, how did you get into that from roof plumbing?
So I was really involved with life saving in general, and I met some of the guys from the state office through doing life saving, and a job opportunity popped up out of that.
So you took that on, and then went on to the retail world.
Yeah, so while I was working in emergency management, I always knew I wanted to get in property. And I suppose the key was I got a mentor that really, I suppose, helped me pave the way and open some doors into that world, which is really key for me.
So you've made a pretty good career decision, because then you've gone on from retail straight into becoming an entrepreneur. Like, mate, quickly just take us into the entrepreneurial world and why you actually got into that.
Yeah, well, I've always wanted to own my own business. Like, I understand working for a salary, you're always going to be restricted by that as you get older. So owning your own business is the best way to, earn uncapped potential for your income.
So Villa Vodka, take us to the name. I love the name, kind of exotic, and I feel like I'm on holidays, when I hear that. But take us through the whole name component.
So I think for brands, having something easy to say, easy to remember. The word villa actually is supposed to remind you of going on holidays. So while you're having our product, you're supposed to feel like you're on an escape, you're on holiday.
Good. So I hit that brief.
Yeah.
No, but take us through, mate. Like, what separates your business from everyone else? Because that's obviously important. If we're going to be successful in business, we need to, have a point of difference. Same as, when we're going into a career, we got to have our own point of difference. But vodka is hugely competitive. Well, the drinks industry is hugely competitive. What separates you?
Well, what separates us is we're trying to create a new age version of what's out there. Currently, the brands that everybody knows, I won't name them, but they're a bit vanilla, they're a bit Russian, if you know what I mean. So we're looking to create an Australian product that everyone can connect with.
Love it.
When I was coming up with the idea of the product, everyone was drinking coconut water. Everyone's trying to think about being healthier.
I saw you drinking a coconut water before. Are you just hitting that again?
Yeah, a bit of electrolytes before I came in. But our product is actually filtered through coconut, so it's giving everyone an opportunity to feel like they're doing the healthy choice. Yeah,
nice. And I mean, as I said, it's hugely competitive. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. But, mate, as I said, you've gone a whole roundabout way to get into business. What education did you take up from school to go from the plumbing side to emergency management to commercial leasing to now, entrepreneur? Like, what is your education pathway look like for a lot of people out there who want to know?
So while I was working in roofing, I was studying business. I knew that was going to be the catalyst for me to get a job in the commercial world, whatever that would be. I knew I needed a ticket, but I knew I didn't really necessarily need a university degree. I just needed to know enough and meet the right people.
Mate, that's actually really interesting. So you don't have a degree?
No.
So I do, and if I had my time back, I don't know if I would have gone down the path I probably did. So, what was that path? You said you don't have a degree. So what did you do? Like, did you go to network seminars? Did you do a TAFE course? Because there's going to be a lot of people out there who's listening to this going, uni might not be for me, but what is out there so I can achieve, what Michael's just achieved?
So I studied business at TAFE. I got a diploma and an advanced diploma in business. And then with that catalyst knowledge that I got, meeting the right people. So I got a mentor through the company I was working at, and he really opened up the doors and the opportunities for business in the future.
So networking, you think is pretty key to all this?
Definitely, yeah. And in terms of finding a mentor and networking with the right people, it's not about finding someone that works in the industry that you want to work in. It's about identifying somebody that has been successful in your eyes and you want to create that kind of lifestyle or that kind of success. So
you're now a senior leader in your own business and where you work. Where do you rate? So say you get a young person coming to you in your company, applying for a job. How highly do you value education versus experience?
I think experience would definitely outweigh education. But it's hard to say. So I've got a lot of friends that have done masters and got all these degrees. They finish their courses and they can't get work. Whereas you find some young buck who's just super keen to get involved, get stuck in, and they're generally the most productive and most profitable people to add to your business. So
are you the path you took for you think that's the right one to get to where you were, obviously, right, today? Is there anything you would change, from that education component?
For me, my path, I wouldn't change it at all. I love the way I've done it. I've moved states. I've worked for different companies, worked for ASX listed companies. It's been a really interesting path, and now I've got my own company as well. But for anybody else, if you want to be an accountant or a doctor, obviously education is key. But if you don't know what it is that you want to do, get out there, get some experience, go work in hospitality, understand how businesses operate and what people need in their companies, and be a bit of a chameleon and create the person that you need to become. Oh,
I love that. I think being a chameleon is pretty key. Fit that situation that you need to. Mate, take us through a typical day, because you're in business, and we're talking to you, about business in general, because you do a stack of different things, and which is why we picked you to do this podcast and video, is because you've got you've got a number of different skills across a number of different industries. So take us through a typical day and what that looks like for you today.
Yeah, so I think the key to being not successful but like motivated every day is getting up early. I'm trying to get better and better at that every week. So most mornings I get up about 5 o'clock, go to the gym in the city with one of my colleagues, and I get to the office about 7 o'clock, and then I do late hours, but it's because I want to be there, not because I have to be there. I actually really enjoy work. So what does the day look like? Because
when we finish uni or when we finish school, we think, we'll go out and we'll do this. We'll go out and become, a business person, and then we'll make a shitload of money. But it's not always like that. There's a lot of mundane things that we need to be aware of. Like, are there things during your day that you sit there and go, I really wish I didn't have to do this, but, I kind of have to. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, there's parts of that in any job. But you got to think about it like fartlek training. So it's like you've got to do the hard yards to get the fun part at the end, or get that success. So for me, I've just got to call canvas people for sales, and it's not necessarily the funnest thing. But for me, I'm making connections the whole time. You've got to think about the positives in everything you do.
So, no doubt, given that you're starting to hit that rise and still only young, what are some of those challenges that you face today? And I know even for myself, as you try and build your own career, sometimes it's this age perception. Do you find that as an obstacle at all?
Definitely, yeah. So experience is the key when you're younger, and now that I'm starting to get older, I've just got opportunities flying at me. So everyone's trying to offer me jobs, but yeah, when you're younger, it's really getting that experience. If you need a piece of paper, get it, but the experience is key when you're younger.
So how do you actually? Because that's interesting. So how do you Like, what's your advice to someone who's just either finished school or uni who wants to do what you're doing now, but they don't have that experience? So what would you recommend to actually kick that off?
I'd use your personal network. So who are your friends? Who are their parents? Who's someone that you can tap into in your own local market? And what do they do for work? Are you interested in what they do? Whether you go do a traineeship or whether you just ask them questions about their business, go get some experience somewhere. And like I said, go work in hospitality. That's amazing business because you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with money. Like it's pretty simple, really. That's what I'd go do.
Michael, there's going to be a lot of technology, and as we move and progress forward, that we're seeing more and more technology play a huge role in either boosting people's careers, boosting people's business, improving sport. Mate, what are some of the technologies that are out there in your space that you recommend a lot of people at least be aware of and try and tap into?
There's probably two ways to look at it. So there's hardware and software. So hardware for me is a key thing. In the property world, everyone's still got their little paper book that they write all their notes in. And it's good, but if you use hardware, like I've got a touchscreen Surface Pro, and it has made my life so much easier. I go to do presentations at a cafe, and I'm blowing people away. So if you adapt to what's actually available and invest a little bit, you can go ahead of whoever's out there, whoever your competition is. And then in terms of software, communication with your team is key. So using something like Slack, and then just even Messenger platforms, that is really helpful as well for being more effective at business.
I use that a lot, and I don't often use standard text as much anymore unless it's a one-on-one situation.
Unless you're texting mum.
Well, I just call it now. It's too hard to text. They take too long. But I fully, like, we were talking about Slack just before we kicked off on this, and what a cool tool that is, because we can set so many channels up there, and communication is key, or I find is key in successful business, because it keeps us all, on the, level-headed on the same page. And I think, when we're talking to, young students, we want to make sure that they're aware that what communication and culture plays, a part. And so I think, yeah, you're right. Like, being up to date with some of these comm strategies or the tools that are out there is critical. Is there anything else in particular in retail leasing, or even being an entrepreneur, that you'd use or recommend to at least be aware of?
Keeping a CRM, so like customer management or your network, I would definitely get a system. If it's not your Outlook contacts list, I'd get another system, maybe Pipedrive or something like that. And everyone
I didn't even know that. Write that one down.
Everyone you meet, keep all their names, all their details. They'll be valuable at some point, and keep in touch with everybody as well.
So let's just go on to some of the key attributes that you look for in some young people. So if you were to hire someone tomorrow let's actually split it. Let's look at both your businesses, in the leasing world, and your own vodka company, because I think that's going to be important, because they're two different types of industries. So if we were to employ someone in the retail leasing space, what particular person would you look for?
So in retail leasing or property, I'd want the person to be a bit more aggressive, and I don't mean angry. I mean more
hungry,
persistent and hungry, and just hitting me up, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take non-stop hitting up to get deals done. I'd also like to see a bit of sacrifice. So whatever that means for somebody, I'm not sure. And then investment as well. So for me, to get the job I've currently got, I had to invest and go to a course. And the guys I was speaking to said that if I did this course, there's a lot more opportunity to get a job. And I went and took a week off my current job, went and did this course, didn't tell anybody, and then kept hitting them up for a year, and I got the job eventually.
Persistence is key.
Yeah.
So you're saying persistence, hunger, drive, are key for those roles. Long hours as well, I kind of picked up in there.
Yeah.
Let's flip it and look at the other side. If you were looking to hire someone in your startup, what are you going to look for there?
I suppose the startup would be a bit more creative, and it would depend what facet of the business they're joining. So there's sales, marketing, operations. So it would really depend what part they would be playing. But it's probably a bit more of a creative side, customer management, like customer success. So We want our consumers to be happy, and that's the key for us. So a people person.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. So let's talk about some of these myths and truths that we hear in the business world, but that apply directly to some of these graduates coming out. What are some of the things that, particularly you growing up and getting that experience, what are some of the things that you thought or that you heard that didn't actually come out the way you thought it would, in say, even the commercial or the property world?
I suppose it's kind of like the grass isn't always greener is probably a good comment as well. Like you've always got these plans of where you want to go, and when you get there, it might not necessarily be as good as you thought. But I don't know. It's climbing the ladder is the key, really. You want to keep going and progressing through the whole process of jobs, different companies.
And so how do you think you actually climb that ladder? What are some of those key things or the truths that people need to know to actually succeed in that? Because you mentioned before, it's all about who you know.
Yeah, it's definitely about who you know. So, yeah, who you know over what you know is definitely the key. So you got to know enough of what you need to know.
So that's a bloody good point. So what do you say? There's a lot of people out there who don't get the opportunity to network. I mean, mate, you're a pretty charismatic kind of guy. And so there's others who just simply don't have those skills that you have to just network. So, for a person sitting out there listening to this going, I don't like networking, I am quiet. What can they do to really put them, in front of the others? And that's a hard one, but it's important because there are a lot of people out there who are introverts and don't, I know you got to man up or, try to grab the bull by the horns, but sometimes there are those people who just go, look, I don't have those skills, so how do I actually nudge in front of them?
Yeah, like you said, I'm pretty lucky. I just naturally go and talk to people. I'm a bit special like that. But if you're looking to get out there, there's so many free networking events around the city, for example. Just Google it. There's networking for technology, for hospitality, whatever you want, it's out there. And just go and book it in. They're all pretty much free. And then the other thing is, if you want to catch up with somebody, don't be afraid. People are always keen to have a coffee. And it doesn't matter whether it's related to your actual business or whether you just want to connect with somebody random. Just drop them a line, give them a call, book it in, go have a coffee.
No, I think it's a good point. And look, I've done the same thing. I think networking is key. And there are skills, there are strengths and weaknesses in every person. And I'm agreeing with you. I think networking is very critical to being successful. And unfortunately, if you don't like doing it, you might have to try. Like, I don't like writing. I hate writing, but I know I've got to do it for my job. Doesn't mean I'm very good at it, but that's where I bring others in. And I think networking's similar. If you're not that strong at it, use your closer network to try and, I guess, get out there a little bit more. So if I'm scared of contacting, your boss, you'll do it for me because I'll reach out to you and then you can hook us up. So I think from my point of view, it's that's also key. Is if you are scared of just reaching out to someone out there, go through another avenue. There's always a way to overcome those obstacles. I think that's important. Mate, take us through where you see the future of property. I know that's a huge, we don't have a crystal ball, but where do you see the future of property, or in particular, where do you see your role heading from where you are?
Yeah, well, I suppose on property, I won't be talking about residential, which is probably what the whole Australian market wants to hear about. But I'll be talking retail in the CBD and Australia and internationally. Luxury is just taking over. So there's not enough space. There's so many brands that want to be in Sydney and Australia. It's a pretty interesting market to be in. I'm pretty happy about that. In terms of my job, there's so much opportunity out there because it's a bit of an uneasy market, and people like myself become a key for those businesses that need to make a return for their shareholders and generate those revenues. So people are willing to pay more to make sure they're getting the best in the crop to get that job done.
So what the ones coming through today who are finishing school, finishing uni, and they want to jump into where you are, where do you think they should focus on in your view?
It's all about experience in the property game. It's just how well you know your market, how well you know your products. So if you can go get a local agency and go work there for a couple of years and then start climbing up and then get into the city, that'd be the track.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. And what about from the other side? We'll go to the entrepreneurial side of things. What does the future hold for Villa Vodka, but just in general? I mean, we see a lot of people, and I think entrepreneur, the term has been thrown around a hell of a lot now, but where do you see that going in the future?
Yeah, there's so many new businesses being started every day, and there's a lot of people out there with good ideas. It's all about execution. There's not many businesses that are actually truly successful, and that's in terms of growth and scale. But yeah, if anyone's got a good idea, I'd highly recommend just starting a company. It's so much fun. Make sure you do it with a couple of people. Don't do it by yourself, because then you're actually having fun with the whole thing.
I started off doing it myself, and it is a slog, hey. It is an absolute slog. It is no fun, and you go through those peaks and troughs, don't you? Whereas you've got that whole emotional reliance as well, where they're feeling your pain as well, and you can start talking about it. I think that's really important. So what does the future hold for Villa Vodka?
So we're currently operating on a 5-year plan. There's 3 of us co-founders running the business, and we all play our own part. But we're hoping to see it get picked up by one of the bigger companies in maybe 4 or 5 years. That's our plan. So
some of those big ones, watch out. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the espresso martini and the vodka soda, so I'm really looking forward to finally getting a bottle of Villa Vodka. One day I'm sure it will come.
I don't get to drink it myself. We're selling
Hopefully I can buy it from a major retail outlet, but we'll see about that, mate. Mate, really appreciate you coming in. I think a lot of the viewers, a lot of the listeners are going to get a lot out of what you said. You've provided some really good tips, throughout the conversation. And I hope that someone out there will pick up something of that and progress their career forward. But for everyone else, thanks for joining us. And make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and notifications to get all our latest podcasts. Check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere you find podcasts. And importantly, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at purple_carrot with a K. And importantly, subscribe to us at purplecarrot.com. Michael, once again, thanks for coming in, and look to see your smiling face again. Cheers.
Thanks for having me.